Hi, I'm Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. I am Michelle Chalfant, and so happy to be here with you today. I have a very, very special guest. Today, we're talking about going from hopelessness to healing with a special guest, Ruthie Lindsey. She is someone that I've been stalking on Instagram and on social media because I kept hearing her name for many, many months. And when you hear her story today, you're going to understand why I stalked her, number one, and asked her to be on the show. But I think you're going to be blown away by her story and her whole journey, going from such physical pain, that's an understatement, and then the journey that she has had from this pain through emotional healing, and then in becoming the woman that she is today, and also in writing her book. So we have a lot to talk about. The only thing I want to announce for everyone is just to remind you guys, we are just about a month away. We have the Adult Chair Workshop is going to be in Nashville. It's supposed to be here in April. We moved it to July 30th. So July 30th, 31st, and August 1st, we'll be here in Nashville doing that 3-day intensive, all about the adult chair. So if you want more information, just go to theadultchair.com/events, and you can get all that information. Okay, just let me introduce you to Ruthie. She's a speaker, author, podcast host, and social media figure. Ruthie travels the globe sharing her story, empowering others to find purpose in their pain, to look for beauty in the midst of their brokenness. Her memoir, There I Am, The Journey from Hopelessness to Healing, is available right now. And I am so excited to have you on, Ruthie. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast, Ruthie Lindsey.
Thank you so much. So lovely to get to be here with you. I'm so appreciative.
Yeah. Well, I think we should just begin with your story. It's an incredible story. So if you would like to jump right in, we are ready for you, honey.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to give you, there's a long version. I'll try to give you the shorter version. But basically, when I was a senior in high school, I grew up in a small town in South Louisiana and had organized a bunch of people to get together to go to Baton Rouge to this place called Celebration Station. And I was trying to keep up with everyone and pulled out from a gas station and was hit on my car door going 65. An ambulance hit me. He was going 65. And my car door ended up in the passenger seat, and I broke 3 ribs, and they punctured my lungs collapsed, my spleen ruptured, and then I broke the top 2 vertebrae in my neck, C1 and C2. And apparently I had about a 5% chance of survival and a 1% chance to walk. And I'm so fortunate to be here. And, an ambulance driver hit me. So he knew how to stabilize my neck. He knew not to just try to pull me out of the car. I wasn't breathing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's all kind of crazy stuff, but I was very fortunate. And, if you're going to get hit by something, that's good.
The ambulance.
So I was in the hospital about a month. I was very lucky because I was so young. So I had health and youth on my side. But when I first got there, of course, they had to remove my spleen, and then they had to put the chest tubes in. But then once I was stable, because I was on life support for a little over a week. And once I was stable enough and breathing on my own, they went ahead and did the spinal cord surgery. So they took bone from my hip and fused it into my neck. And back then, wire is what they used for spinal cord fusion. So that's
Yeah.
what they used. And so they wrapped it with wire to like hold my spinal cord fusion together. And, I left after about a month. I walked out of there with a big neck brace and half my head shaved and all my scars being hidden from clothing and
Mm-hmm.
hair. And, once I didn't have that neck brace anymore, you would not know anything had ever happened to me. And it happened on November 2nd. I went back to school after Christmas and was able to graduate on time. Like, I didn't,
Wow.
or if I danced too much, like I literally really didn't have any residual effects at the time. And I had never done like any sort of counseling. I didn't know this word, but I was definitely very disassociated. I
Mm.
would talk about it like it was in third person, like it had happened
Yeah.
to someone else,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I would always say like it was way harder for my family and my friends than it was for me. And, at the time I didn't remember it, not understanding that of course my body did, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I did not remember any of that had happened. So, and it was just, I love storytelling. So it was just kind of like this cool story, that I felt very distanced from and removed.
Yeah.
So I went to school, I graduated, went on to college. Again, very disassociated, had some pretty disordered eating things, which now makes so much sense to me. I was just trying to push down all the big hard feelings. I had no idea how to process hard feelings. I also
Yeah.
grew up in the South and everything was about, you show up and you be pretty and you be kind and you be sweet. And I was taught there were like good emotions and bad emotions and you push the bad emotions down
Mm-hmm.
and everything's about appearance. So I could show up and smile and be kind and be pretty and,
Oh
had a
my
ton of
gosh.
friends and then go home and just make myself sick from eating so much and just trying to stuff my feelings and no one knew, no
So
one.
you weren't like binge eating or overeating before the accident.
Probably some, I think
Mhm.
I had some disordered ideas, especially
Yeah.
with body image. My mom had some pretty disordered body image stuff, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
big focus in my house.
Mm-hmm.
But not, I think I definitely ate emotionally, but nothing to that extreme.
Yeah.
And it was definitely an obsession with like body and that's
Mm. Yeah.
control,
Of
all of that.
course.
It was
Of course.
a big thing in my home. And so, yeah, it was disordered before that, but it just got ramped up. When I first got to college, it was all control and it was like lack of food. I like basically starved myself. And then I
Mm.
to eating everything in sight and just trying to push it all down. Um, and, all that makes a lot of sense to me now.
Oh gosh, for
You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
So I graduated, moved to Nashville, was offered a job. I used to, in another life, I like was a part of church and I worked at a youth ministry and that's what actually brought me to Nashville, which
Mm-hmm.
feels like 80 billion lifetimes ago. It was just another world. And again, I was a part of a denomination that told me I was a broken, depraved wretch. And
Ah.
God, I was taught about that in a very small box, like women weren't allowed to teach, being gay was sinful. It was very limiting.
Mm.
And I also took those words to heart. Like I believed I was broken and there was something fundamentally wrong with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Um, I I wore that like a badge, and so um, I met my very first boyfriend within like a year, actually through working through some friends, and he had worked at that church doing like an internship before me, and so we were both in that world very much so,
Yeah.
and we we were just really sweet little earnest idiots, and we got married literally 10 months after we started dating because we felt guilty about having sex because that was the world that we were of and
Yeah.
the flesh is simple and all that's bad. And so we were just hoping that that would make everything okay, and we started our lives together and we had all these dreams and hopes for what was to come. And
Mm.
I went on tour with him. He's an amazing drummer and we were just excited for our future, and about a year into us being married, one day I was just like walking from the store and this crazy, gnarly shooting pain went up my head. And I remember at the time thinking, maybe I was struck by lightning or maybe I was
Wow.
like, it was that gnarly and that severe. And then I like, fell down, blacked out for a second. And then I was left with like this very intense, like inky spots in my eyes and very intense migraine. And it scared, of course, me to death. I did not
Yeah.
know what the hell had just happened to me, and that exact pain started happening more and more often. So, of course,
Wow.
I started going to different doctors, and every time I go to a new doctor, they'd have me do an MRI. And
Yeah.
every time the MRI would come back, there'd be this film, and there'd be a black spot on the film where the wire was. And they'd say, oh, that's just the magnet, the machine interacting with the wire from your fusion. Everything around it looks fine. So they started me on different therapies, and, we tried all of it. Nothing helped. So then, as they do, they started me on narcotics because I was just not okay, and I didn't want to hurt. So I took anything they recommended, and
Yeah, of course.
just desperate to not hurt all the time. And I was terrified, and it never even crossed my mind to ask what was under that spot. Like I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons about taking my own power back and being an
Oh, yeah.
advocate for myself, because I learned that the hard way a good bit.
Mhm.
But I didn't. And I mean, I stopped being able to work. I stopped being able to show up as a partner, as a sister, as a friend, as an aunt. Like everything just stopped.
Because you were
And
in so much pain.
I was in so much pain and
But
didn't.
this is like what, 5 or 6 years after the accident?
The accident happened in 96, and this would have been like 2005.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay. A
Yeah,
long time after. Okay.
long time after. And so I, I think it also, not think, I know it definitely brought up a lot of emotional stuff too, but I just wasn't even aware. I would have
Yeah.
just put it all up to physical pain.
Yeah, totally.
So I lived in my bed. Everything stopped. I ate my feelings, I took the drugs, and I watched television. And that was pretty much the extent of my life. And that went on for about 4.5 years. And,
Wow.
chronic conditions aren't, that's not what narcotics are made for. So you just need more and more.
Yes.
It's like, that's for acute conditions that are going to
Mhm.
get better. You break your leg or you have to have surgery, and you wean off really quickly because you get dependent so quickly, and you need more and more and more. And so, I was on the highest level of fentanyl patch,
Oh, wow.
on all kinds of stuff. So finally saw another doctor. Had seen a lot at that point, but I saw another doctor, and he was like, I can't tell you what's happening until I see what's under your spot. So basically I was like, oh, right, that makes sense. And so this $50 x-ray showed that one of the wires had broken and pierced into my brainstem.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No
And
one had thought to do that before. A
mm,
$50 x-ray.
50, and all of them had been out of pocket before because it was a pre-existing injury, and so insurance never covered.
Oh my gosh.
So I wasn't working. My husband's self-employed artist, so that was also another just highly stressful thing. But this $50 x-ray, yeah. And it was literally, that's like your reptile brain. So like if you're on life support, they're keeping your reptile brain. Like you don't even have
Yeah.
brain function,
Oh yeah.
organs working. So I mean, only one, like I shouldn't be breathing. I shouldn't be speaking. I shouldn't be walking. Like it's, a miraculous miracle that I'm here and breathing and talking to you right now.
No kidding. My gosh.
But it was terrifying because they're like, you know, I find this out, and I was already so very much not okay. And I just was terrified. I felt like, I'm this ticking time bomb. If I turn my neck the wrong way, am I going to be paralyzed? Am I going to die? Am I going and
Yeah.
we have to get it out as soon as possible. And so, which I didn't know how we were going to do that because, again, insurance wasn't going to cover it.
Mm.
So a few weeks later, my dad, who we called Papa, was coming to see me to tell me, which I didn't know any of this. He had told my mom and my godfather that he was going to tell me that he was going to offer to sell my farm so that I
Wow.
could have this surgery, which was very much him. He was just the most precious man. Like, when we were children, I have older brothers, when he'd leave us, he'd say, "I love you so much. Remember your manners. Always look out for the little guy." And
Mm.
that was just like his
Oh,
thing. Like, I want you to see and look for and enter in with the person that everyone else misses and like love them.
oh.
And that was his whole thing. And so anyway, we don't know exactly what happened. Like, he's so funny. He plowed our gardens with a mule. So and on his way to see me and my partner, he had stopped to visit our Amish friends because we have Amish friends. Like, he did everything the way the Amish did it and would go visit with them every few months and just loved that world. Like, that
Yeah.
was like his vacation, was going
Oh,
to work the land with the Amish. That's how he learned how to plow his garden. That's how he learned how to farm. So he had visited them on his way, and we got a phone call, and we don't know exactly what happened because he wasn't with anyone at the moment, but he ended up falling down a flight of stairs while there
oh.
and ended up passing of brain damage. Um, you know, it,
So crazy.
yeah, it was so heartbreaking. It was so traumatic. It was like, I would literally like pinch myself until I was bleeding because I just was like, wake up, like, you're in
Yeah.
here. This cannot be real. And it was horrible, not just for me and my family, but it was such a loss for so many. Like, he just had such an
It
impact.
sounds like everyone in your community knew him. I mean,
Oh,
he was that kind of guy, you could tell.
he was like my principal till 8th grade, and then my superintendent, and he was like
Ah,
Johnny Town, and just had he really impacted countless lives. And so, you know,
ah,
something that was really beautiful in that time is my godfather ended up setting up a medical fund in my daddy's honor because he knew
mm,
his final wish, is
mhm.
that I had the surgery. And it was so unbelievable because people started writing in and sending checks, and literally they'd be like, "Your dad bought my prom dress. Your dad,
Ah,
my senior trip. Your dad fixed my roof. Your dad paid my rent. Your dad." I mean, it went on and on and on. And the full amount of money was raised for me to have this crazy freaking surgery because of the way he had loved.
wow. He's like
He,
an angel walking on the planet. I
yeah.
mean,
And he was not perfect. Like, listen, he's not
no, but I
perfect,
mean,
just like all of us, but his heart was
yeah,
so beautiful, and just his intent was so good.
yeah.
And it felt like just such a privilege to be his daughter, like, what an honor.
It
Uh,
sounds like it. My gosh.
and so from there, I mean, God, the last thing I wanted to do was like jump into trying to figure out how to do this surgery. And like, doctors started pursuing me. They like get off on being the first one to do
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
sought after, and it was hard. Everyone had different ideas of what to do because no one had ever done it before, which is terrifying. I'm like, I'm traumatized. I just want my dad in crazy pain, and like, uh, to figure out and sort through what you're supposed to do. I mean, what the hell? It was
I can't
awful.
even imagine like the overwhelming feeling, having
Yeah,
everyone have these different ideas. How do you pick the right one?
it was terrible. It was so
Mm.
terrible. And so I ended up choosing the Mayo Clinic. It was like, top neurologist, top orthopedic surgeon. They did it
Mhm.
together, and they're like, "We hope this will help with your pain, but like, this
Oh
is
my
like,
gosh.
we want you living, walking,
Yeah, yeah,
breathing."
yeah, yeah.
So I'll spare you all the details of the surgery. It was very, very difficult. I would have told I lived a 10 for that surgery, and then I was like, just kidding. I didn't know that you could hurt like that. Like, I just didn't know.
Mm.
Um, and again, I've been on drugs for so long. So for them to even like touch the level of pain that I had after this last surgery, they probably would have had to sedate like an elephant. I mean, who
Oh
knows?
my
Like,
gosh.
they couldn't get my pain under control. They went in and they took bone from my other hip, and then they removed just the piece of wire that was in my brainstem, and then refused it with titanium screws.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm walking. Like, I'm so freaking grateful to be alive and walking. And, a week later, I walk out of there with another big neck brace, my head shaved again with the wire in my hand. Like,
No way.
insane,
Wow.
insane. But what was interesting, I ended up getting pretty severe nerve damage, and my just right side just felt like it was on fire, like complete burning fire. So the shooting pain was done,
Yeah.
but I'm in just as much pain, but just like a different type of pain.
Oh,
So I actually walked straight back to my bed, and at that point I was on even more drugs, and I felt even more hopeless because I had put all my hope in this thing outside of me to
hmm
make me better and to fix me.
hmm
And, of course, I was walking, but I was still in such debilitating pain, and I wasn't quote unquote fixed because it's not meant to. And that was so devastating. It felt so hopeless. I was just like, okay, I'm these four walls. This is going to be my life, and I'm going to live here for the rest of all time. And it felt so hopeless. And so I lived in my bed for another 2 years.
wow.
So altogether, almost seven. And that was, horrible. But
Mm.
everything kind of came to a head. I had gone in for endometriosis surgery. I had caught C. diff, which
Oh
is
my God. Like
horrible.
a nightmare.
It's so horrible. And I was so sick. I kept ended up in the emergency room. My husband was on tour in Australia, which I didn't blame him. I would have wanted to get the hell out of there too. And I could tell my marriage was just falling apart. It was not, I mean, can you imagine how
How could you have a marriage? Like
don't
you were in bed. Like, did you ever even, you couldn't even do anything with him?
know? I was a shell of a human, and I couldn't, my pain, was like the third party, and it took up more space than anything. So there wasn't really space for him to not be okay because my pain was always bigger and harder.
Bigger. Yeah, for
And
sure.
so, yeah, I mean, this started a year into our marriage. Um, I'm so grateful for him for sticking around as long as he did. So he was gone. I was so not okay. I stopped sleeping. Everything came to a head. And I think C. diff just took me over the edge.
Yeah. My
Um,
God.
and so I ended up moving home because I was not functional and I couldn't take care of myself. And that in and of itself, the shame and that brought was so visceral. Like, I just, I had so many limiting stories in my head of like, I am just a burden and they're all so ashamed of me. My dad's so ashamed of me. And my girlfriend that died from a car accident, like she should be here and not me. And this
Mm.
is the rest of my life. Like, it was just this downward spiraling. I could not see out of this shame blanket that was covering me. And, my family was amazing and stepped in and did everything they could. And eventually, they wanted to send me away to get help. And that probably would have been the best thing that ever happened to me. But again, I cared so much about what everyone else thought. All
Mm.
I've been taught is what other people think is
Yeah,
the
of
important thing.
course.
And so I literally the next day started weaning myself off the drugs so that they wouldn't send me away.
What was that turning point for you that because I'm hearing you like, and I don't know if this is true, but like in such depression. I
Mhm.
mean, you're in a shame spiral. You said a downward spiral. You have all these limiting stories. How do you go from that state of mind to say, you know what, I'm getting myself out. I'm going to wean off.
It was truly out of fear. That was the motivator at first because, again, I think something jolted in me and I cared so much about what other people would think. I thought, everyone would know, everyone would be talking about it.
If you were to go away.
Exactly. It
So
was all
then,
total
okay.
bullshit stories, but that's what my sick mind said.
Yeah.
But again, it motivated me to do this thing. And
Mhm.
that was the turning point for me. And nothing was overnight. It was very difficult and it was like a trickle. And, at first I felt numb and dead inside. And I had to
Mhm.
literally relearn how to live. Like, I remember my brother saying, like, babe, you can lay in your bed and hurt all the time, or you can get up and you can be with people and you can try to love people and experience
Mm.
life. And right now, those are your only two options. And I mean, I was just like, okay, I'll try to, I mean, it sounds so basic, but that was all
No.
I had at the time.
When you're trapped in the mind like that, and you were trapped in bed for 7 years,
Yeah.
and I would imagine just trickling down as far as emotionally speaking, like,
I was a shell. I was a shadow of me, which also drugs. Hello.
oh
You know,
yeah, you're numbed out from those too.
when you numb hard, painful things, you numb every good.
Everything.
You can't pick and choose. It's just not how it works. And so I hadn't experienced goodness or beauty or, it just everything had felt dark and depraved and wretched and hopeless. And so at first, I mean, it was a relearning. It was literally, I would watch my nephews. I'm like, what do humans do all day? I
Wow.
watch the Real Housewives. Like, I eat my feelings wake up in bed. What do people do? And I would like make a list. I'm like, okay, at 8 o'clock, even if you didn't sleep that night, you get out of bed and you put your feet on the ground and you don't get back in it until it's dark. And I'm like, that's a long way away.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
and then it was like, okay, make the bed. And I'd scratch that off. And like,
Mm.
eat breakfast, scratch that off. And at first, that's all it was. It was literally as basic as that. And that went on for, probably a few weeks. And then I don't know if it were, and it doesn't matter, but if it were like my higher self, if it were God, universe, whatever you want to call your higher power, if it was my dad, if it was angels, who knows? And who cares? But something in me was like, make a list of all the things that you loved before pain.
Mm.
And I sat down and I made this list and I'm like writing things, which I didn't care about any of them at that point. I'm like, Ruthie, you love flowers. I'm like, no, I don't. You love sunsets.
Mm.
You love people. And I was literally in my head, I'm like, no, I do not. I'm like, yes, you do. You love people. And so from there, I would add one of the things off that joy list to my everyday list to do one of those things.
Mm.
So if it were, go sit outside and just watch the sunset, or go pick flowers, or go smell flowers, or go, I had a dear friend who her husband was literally dying of colon cancer, the girl I grew up with. So I was at home. I would go sit with her at the hospital, and it's like, get outside of your own pain.
Yeah.
Go,
And go and serve.
yeah. Go be with people and go love and go look for beauty. And so again, at first, I literally felt numb and dead. I didn't feel anything. And that was, something in me knew that the motion had to come before the emotion. And I just
I
was
like that.
that the emotion would eventually come, because I
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't know, but every day it was a practice. I would make myself do it, and I felt nothing at first, but slowly
Mhm.
as I was weaning off of these drugs and actually having to feel, I was also able to feel and see goodness and to see beauty. And that became my new focus. It was like, that's going to be my new drug, looking for goodness and beauty in people and places and things, and like expressing it. Because that's like, I need that. I missed it, And so I remember at that time too, hearing this Khalil Gibran quote from the prophet.
Mhm.
And it said, the deeper sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I remember bawling. I was in my nephew's bed and just bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, that's going to be my story. Like, I am going to get to experience joy on such a beautiful soul level because of, not despite, but
Mhm.
because of this pain and this sorrow. And, that's been such an interesting journey too, because it's funny, even what you read at the beginning, I think when I originally wrote that, like I still thought, like, oh, you find beauty in the brokenness. Because I thought I was broken.
Yeah.
I thought, I'd been taught that I was broken. And so I thought something was inherently wrong and broken. I thought my body was broken. I thought my body hated me. I would say that my body hates me because I thought that was the source of all of my trauma and all my pain. And I didn't even know what disassociation was, but I was so cut off because I was like, if I go in there, I will die. That pain is big for me. And so, what eventually ended up happening is over time, I started sharing my story but people, I think for my own, because I didn't know, it's all a journey, right? But I jumped into, I want to try to help as many people as I possibly can. I want to make this pain purposeful, find beauty in the suffering, joy in the brokenness, but I totally bypassed going in and doing that work on myself. And so it becomes its own drug. You need to be needed so that you also feel like, okay, this is validated and this is okay. And
Yes.
I didn't know, I knew that I had found identity at that time. I knew I had found my identity when I lived in my bed with my pain. Because I think, we also teach people how to see us. And anytime anyone would see me, they'd be like, how are you? Are you okay? Because all I was to them was my pain, because that's all I was to myself. I found comfort, honestly, in some of their sympathy, because in my sick mind, it justified me living in my bed.
It reinforced it. It just reinforced it. Yeah.
But what I didn't know was that I was still finding so much identity in this pain story, actually, until the first time it really hit home for me was when I went to On-Site for the first time. And you give up your phone. It's this emotional wellness place that I know you know all about, but you aren't allowed to tell anyone what you do for a living for a week. And you're in this group therapy, like it's all experiential therapy with like 10 other people. And what happened there is, usually what happens is people are like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm a speaker. What do you speak about? I share my story. What's your story? And I could give this 5-minute elevator pitch. And all of a sudden I'd get this, wow, you're so brave. You're so strong, or whatever. And it made me feel validated. It made me offer. I deserve a seat at the table because of this story. And I didn't know how much I was still finding so much identity and worth in that until I couldn't talk about it. And then I'm like, who the actual F am I?
If you don't have your story, then who are you?
Who am I? And that felt like an identity crisis. And so I feel like for me in the last years, so much of my healing work has been this unlearning, has been this remembering, has been this unwinding these stories that we've learned from culture and the patriarchy and church and family, and telling us these things about ourselves, and that what we are is what we do, human doing versus.
And that is such a great point. We're handed down all these beliefs about who we are without discernment.
Totally.
Like we don't sit and go, wait, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to be broken. Do I have to believe that? I don't want to believe that. We just take it all in.
Right. And that's the human experience. Like, of course you do. Your parents, that's all you know.
Of course, it's all we know.
And our minds will tell us so many stories that we believe by heart, even if they're total bullshit.
Totally.
We don't know that that's not a fact. Where I would have told you even 4 years ago, 3 years ago, if someone had told me I really think that your pain could get better, I would want to punt them to the
course.
Every year for 13 years. I'm the only human in the world that's had a wire in their brainstem. Hello, ma'am, who do you think you are?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think when they talk about it, could be part of it could be emotional. It would make me think they're saying it's in my head, and it's not because of this, my neck looking like a freaking toaster oven instead of a spinal cord, and it's all the wires. And so, that unlearning, learning about, the body keeps the score was so formative for me, because that was the first time, and I didn't know how to do it, but it was the first time that I was open to the mind-body connection and realizing that body had been holding on to so much trauma. And up to that time, I had only been doing work on, not even realizing that there was a lot of early childhood stuff
That was my question. Yeah. Like you started to learn like even before the accident. Wait a minute, there's all this other stuff.
that fed into all of that. Why I went to my bed and didn't know how to process the feelings and swallowed every hard emotion. And, there was some hard stuff that some of it I just learned about this year, pre-verbal stuff before I was even speaking. My mom, which she's so incredible and has done so much work, but when she was pregnant with me, she was so severely depressed. So severely depressed. And then after, it got so much worse. And my dad was so incredible with us after like 2, but babies freaked him out. So he wasn't involved. And so my brother, who was 6.5, basically raised me. Like I slept in his bed until he graduated high school. I was his. I would always say he was like a second dad or a second parent, but like I didn't have attachment and attunement from a parent in the early years. And also I learned so much from like Peter Levine, like the trauma that you experience in vitro. If your mom can't function, she's so severely depressed, which is that her fault? No, I'm not angry at her at all. So much trauma that she hadn't processed yet.
And it's information for you that helps you understand what's going on inside of you. I don't ever blame parents, but we've got to look at it. And a lot of people don't even want to look at that stuff.
Right. And it's like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And
good
that
point.
also, that's empowering to me. That's not a burden, because that feels like that's empowering, because I get to come in and do this work. And because my beautiful brain, limbic brain, doesn't know time, I can go back in and reparent myself and tell myself all the things that I needed to hear. I can attune to myself. My phone is a photo of little Ruthie. My office, when I do my meditations, I look at her and my brain doesn't know the difference. Like I can't. And that learning about that was foreign to me, foreign to me. And the idea that my beautiful brain can create these new neural pathways and unlearn those stories, and I can be my own best friend and my own best lover and my own best partner. And that's not navel gazing or selfish. It's the most loving way I can actually show up in the world.
100%. Yes.
Has been profound for me. And realizing that no, I am created to heal. I can go in and do this emotional work and have seen such massive, also physical relief. Like realizing that was possible, that was a turning point. Like before that, anytime I go to anyone, even people that do holistic work like Reiki and, acupuncture, I would go to them like, you can't help me. You can't help me. It can't hurt to try, but you can't help me. And
it's like adding salt to your dinner, right? You got to go and you got to make your own dinner. You got to go and you got to do your own emotional work. All that other stuff is fluff. It's not that it doesn't work. I get energy work. I do I believe in all that, but.
And now that I'm doing this work, I can feel such a huge difference. Because it supports the work that only I could go in and do myself.
Totally.
I look to everyone outside of me. Make me better. Husband, fix me, make me better. Doctors, fix me, make me better. Surgery, fix me, make me better. Medicine, fix me, make me better. Daddy, fix me, make me better. And of course, none of that's not how the universe is set up. It's not created that way.
Right.
And thank God, because if they had, I would have never, all of those painful, traumatic things all became the entry points, the invitations for me to ultimately come home to myself, do this work and wake up to consciousness, and to do this healing work for myself that we're all so deserving of, and remembering what's always been so right with me and not what's so wrong with me. And that journey has been so profound, but you can't do that for someone else. Only you can do that for you, right?
Exactly.
And where we do it, we can go out and be mirrors. The love and hope and healing and divinity that's within everyone. Like I say at the beginning and the end of my book, I'm like, when you close the last chapter of this, I hope you forget me. Like forget me, forget my name, because you don't need me. I am here to be a flashlight to you of what's already inside of you, this healing, this love, this hope, this divinity. It's yours. And I'm going to moonwalk the fuck out of here. Get out of the way, because it's not,
Yeah.
you get to do this, not me. I get to
Yeah.
do me,
But you're an example. I mean, and I think it takes someone that has gone through such tragedy. I mean, my God, to be in bed and then have your father die. I mean, all of this. I mean, and be so low,
Yeah.
and then to climb your way, not, out of bed to start with, and then
Yeah.
out of all of this old emotional wounding,
Yeah.
and to be the person you are today. Like, you're such a bright light.
Thank you.
Like, you're so beautiful inside and out, but inside, oh my God, I feel your energy.
Thank you so
It's
much.
so clean, it's pure, and you've done this work, and it's incredible, this journey you've been on.
Yeah.
I was reading, I have to read something out of your book.
Oh, I love that.
Can I do that? I loved this. I loved this so much. This is back in the author's note, actually, your note. Pain is universal. I believe that healing is possible. I'm not talking about perfection, about waking up one day in remission, sober or pain-free. I'm talking about finding peace and acceptance within yourself, a sense of home in your body and spirit. I have days, this is so important, this is why I wanted to read it. I have days where I forget everything that I've learned, where I crawl back into bed and sob. It isn't all peaks. There are valleys that are, there are valleys, and there are deep, dark pits. I don't believe that our pain has to be wasted, though. I like thinking of all my painful, sorrowful moments as though they are not happening to me, but for me. Every breakdown is another opportunity for a breakthrough, another invitation to explore deeper, to journey further, to help someone along as they start on their own path. We need each other. In therapy, they say that the opposite of addiction is connection. We are not meant to do this on our own. We need to heal in community, to be mirrors of truth and love to each other when the crazy person in our head is telling us so many limiting effed up stories. Love that. All of it. Because what I really want you to just comment on is that, because I've done a lot of work myself, like a lot of internal work, and I'll have someone that will, DM me or email in and say, I've done all this work, but I'm having such a bad day today. I'm like, and like, you're human. You're human. So even though I liked reading that, like, you've come so far, but yet some days you want to get back in bed. And I want everyone to hear this, like, that's being human.
Yes, it's so human. And that's what's also, you're going to have lows. I wish I would have put on, on the title, there I am, the journey from hopelessness to healing, ... to hopelessness to healing.
and again and again.
Healing.
Yes.
Until the day I die, I will be on this healing journey. You don't arrive. Healing is not linear. And I think,
oh my gosh, that was another thing I wanted to say. Go ahead. Keep going.
I think and I've had to learn that the hard way, because I'll be like, wait, I did this work. I learned this already. How could I be back here? And then I'm like, oh, this is just it's like, you can't. Actually, one of my spiritual teachers, she's like, you can have these breakthroughs, and it's like you lifted the weight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lift a weight, you're not going to have muscle. You're not going to have muscle memory. You get to keep doing it. And the universe loves us so much that then we go deeper, and then you get to go even deeper, and you can keep getting to strengthen those muscles until it almost becomes like muscle memory. But you're not going to just arrive there and get it. Like, first time I lived in my bed 7 years when tragedy hit me. I've had really traumatic things happen since then. And another time it could have been for 3 months, I was so not okay. And that's a shorter time. And the next time it's like, okay, for 6 weeks, I'm not okay. And now I see my ability to come back to my true north, to myself, getting quicker and quicker. Does it mean that's traumatic? Does it mean I don't, those neurons are deep. I can go back to my old, fight, flight, freeze, like really, really quickly, because that's 40 years of conditioning of doing that. But I'm quicker to come back, each time.
Yes.
And the more I do it too, the more I cover it with compassion, and love and tenderness instead of really, because my first go-to is to beat myself up
Of
and to
course.
shame myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so my practice, it's a practice. Like if you want to become a great dancer, you have to practice. If you want to become, enlightened, you have to practice it. You have to, if you want to have
Mm-hmm.
deep self-love, it's a daily choice. It might be a minute to minute choice.
Yes.
When I hear those stories, I can combat them. And like I've had during this, coronavirus stuff, it's been really triggering in a lot of ways. And it's brought some stuff up. And I'm like, it's bringing things up to the surface that longs to be healed. And I've already done a lot of work, and now I get to do even more. And instead of shaming myself when I found myself back in that bed and watching Real Housewives and just wanting to eat my feelings, which I did,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Whatever.
oh, sweet Ruthie,
Yeah.
done such good work. I'm so proud of you. Instead of
Yeah.
my first thing is to shame myself, right? And then,
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh, wait. So like the practices I'm doing right now, even the meditations, I'm doing like 120 days in a row thing with the spiritual teacher. And one of them is literally, I look myself in the mirror in my eyes and I tell myself, I fully and completely love, honor, and respect myself right
Mm-hmm.
here, right now, unconditionally. Not who I wish I was, not who I was before I fell back into some old ways,
Yeah.
not who I know I could possibly be, who I am right in this moment, that radical love and acceptance. Like it's a practice because I don't
Yeah.
always feel that. That is
Mm-mm.
a choice that I'm loving myself to give myself that each day, and I implement those things because I go back to the old ways.
We just do. Like
Just
we're
do.
just because we're human, not because
Right.
again, there's something wrong with us or we did it wrong or we didn't get the healing right. It's like some days you just have a bad day and it's okay. But
And see,
I agree with you, like how we can find that peace and balance faster when you
yeah,
spend more time there. But
that's
it's
right.
really such a how do I want to say, it's like a paying attention of the stories, and I call it story busting. Like you got to bust your stories, you got to pay attention, you got to look at what's fact and truth, you got to work with the inner child. That inner child is everything. Like
Well, it's in the
the
wounded
wounded part of us.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the Wizard of Oz, like, pulling all the levers that you're not even aware of.
We're
And
not.
you go back in and you're like, why do I keep doing these same things? Because you're like, your wounded little is traumatized. And that's what's driving. Like, whatever happened to you.
Totally. Yeah.
Bad. I would have told you I had the most perfect childhood ever, that nothing bad had happened to me until I had that wreck.
Yeah.
I sang that story
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
so long. Does that mean my parents weren't amazing? No, they were doing the best they knew how to do. And they also had never done any work. Like, they had
Exactly.
sent them on their own journeys. But what's so beautiful too, and again, it's empowering. It's not a burden, it's empowering. When we go back in and do this work, it can be so healing. I think I've done work since my dad's passed that's been so healing for him. I
Mm.
really
Oh
believe
yeah. Like
I
lineage. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've work that I've like, because I've gone back, have seen have been patterns,
Mhm.
and that also is so healing for future. Like I know the work I'm doing is impacting my nieces and nephews. I don't
For
know that I'll ever
sure.
have children, but like I deeply believe that that is impacting my family for the future, and
Mhm.
that's what a privilege. What a freaking,
What a gift to your family
and to me,
and to you, for sure.
they're so amazing. And it's, yeah, it's just, it's been so hard, so hard. And in the same breath, I would not change one single thing. I think, again, like
Mm.
I said earlier, I don't get to be who I feel like I came here to be and do the work I came here to do, despite my pain, but because of it.
Mm.
I think the ongoing journey is, now I've done so much work going back into my story, and all that is so important. You can't heal something you're not aware of. You
Right.
can't heal
Right.
something you allow yourself to feel.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm in this new season where I'm like, now my work is to like release and to let it go and remember I'm not this story. those things happen, but that's not who I am. I am love. I am loving.
Yeah.
I am light, and I am goodness, and I am worthy. And none of those things define. I love Ram Dass. I'm such a huge Ram Dass.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That, you know, I think the whole non-dualism, the whole waking up to consciousness, the whole coming back into the present moment is
Yeah.
also a letting go, a releasing of, I was so defined by that story for so long. And we're a meaning making species. So of course we want to make, I love storytelling. It's like one of my
Oh
favorite.
yeah. But then when we cling to the stories that are disempowering though, and we don't want to, the ego is like, no, you can't let that go. You can't let that go.
Exactly. It was actually really interesting. The week before my book came out, I'd gone out to the woods with my one of my best girlfriends. And I was just journaling, and I was telling her, I was like, okay, my intention, I'm like writing about how I'm sending out my pain story into the world. I'm sending out also my healing journey into the world. But so much of it's just stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept writing over and over, but I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am not this story. That is not what identifies me. That is not going to tell me if this thing, like I made a choice in that time. I have no idea how many books have been sold. I told my team not to tell me, because like, that is my ego that cares. And not that there's anything wrong. If an author finds out, that's beautiful, live your truth. But for me,
Yeah.
I was like, I did this for myself first, to do this healing work on myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then to be a mirror of that healing for others. And that was my intention. And that is what I'm getting to see and experience. And the numbers, it could literally have sold so many, or 4. I have no clue. I have no idea. And I made that choice, and that, but what was so cool, so I'm telling her about that. And I get this text message from a girlfriend, and she said, Ruthie, I'm so sad. The mailman left your book outside, and it got rained on, and all the words got washed away.
Oh.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, will you send me a photo of it? So she turns it to the author's page, and it's all washed away, and you can't read where it says all the things that I've done and who I want people to, when my ego wants you to think, here's who I am, here's my clout, here's why I'm deserving, here's why I'm worthy. All of it was washed away. And I'd literally been writing, I am loving awareness. I am not what I do. I am loving awareness. And then she sends me this photo. I'm like, okay. That is so beautiful, because I'm like, how people receive this book, it's really none of my business. If like, because we, Richard Rohr always says, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And if people read it and they hate it, that's like none of my business. And if they love it and feel so connected to it, again, it's really none of my business, because it doesn't really have anything to do with me.
Right.
Freedom. That's freeing. Do I live
That's freedom. That's total freedom.
So that's been my practice, and that's why I chose not to find out how it's done, because I'm like, this is why I did it. And that's what my wholehearted self knows. My ego cares.
I know.
Cares.
I know.
But I get to keep coming back to the truth of my truth. And that's felt really sweet. And it's kind of been a gift I've given myself,
Well, I know you don't care, but I want everyone listening today to go buy this book because it's so good. It was so good.
Thank you so much.
It just hit my heart, and it really struck me so deeply. So much. I mean, it's amazing. So if anyone is watching this on YouTube, here's the book. But if you're listening, please tell us where we can find you. And I bought mine on Amazon. It's called There I Am, The Journey from Hopelessness to Healing by Ruthie Lindsey. It's your memoir. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, well, my website has all kind of resources. We created a book club. You can get we did it live, but also all those videos will be uploaded. We just finished it, but there's content. So if you want to create one with your own friends, you can go and do that and have all the resources. So it's just ruthielindsey.com. I have a newsletter, and I have some really fun things coming up that that I'm creating right now. So you can follow along with that, or you can follow me on Instagram, which is just ruthielindsey.com. Oh,
No, no, it's not.
I just had a stroke. Everything's fine. At Ruthie Lindsey. And then I think it's Ruthie Lindsey Speaker on Facebook. That's also where you can find me. And yeah, I'm really excited about some of the things that we're creating, me and my team right now, which, you know, usually I do everything live. Like I'm a speaker and I travel and I do things that right now just aren't happening. And so it's really it's been hard.
Yeah.
Really hard, but also it's like, I don't think I would have gotten curious about doing online things had this not happened. And people have been talking to me about it a long time. I think I'm going to also implement some like coaching things that feels very aligned, you know, and it feels like a really cool next step after the book. Because the last 2 chapters, I talk about the healing stuff, but it's really the journey up into them. But I've learned so much about all of this, and that's in some ways just felt like a job, like a full-time job. Like I'm also a 7 and I'm a glutton and I want to learn all the things. And so like tried all the things. And so I'm excited to share what I've learned through that process. And so yeah, that's all to come.
I'm so excited. We will put all of this in the show notes. Everything you just said will be in the show notes. And I just want to thank you again. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
So nice to have you.
I'm so appreciative, and thank you for all your encouragement and just support. It means a whole lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us again today. It's been another awesome show with Ruthie. So I look forward to seeing you all. I'll be seeing you next week, seated right here in the adult